Hey there and welcome back to Mutant Year Zero. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of our Iron Mutant playthrough. In the last episode we completed our first mission in which we fought exclusively robotic enemies. We also unlocked a grand total of 3 achievements and we recruited another squad member in Pharaoh the Fox. Today our search for Hammond continues and we are more or less ready to go. We just have to take care of a few minor changes in Delta's fix pit.
Someone told me they saw a machine that walks on 2 legs out there. Looks like a metal man, they say. Hey, I'm not surprised. The ancients left behind a lot of wacko stuff. Seeing wacko stuff a lot lately.
Now, with the recruitment of Pharaoh, we have also acquired this second boomstick shotgun here, which comes with a very intriguing damage module, a +2 to critical hit damage, as well as a 50% chance to disable robotic enemies. Now, we are going to remove that and instead put one of those broiler upgrades on it, because the upgrade we just removed is in my opinion perfect for the ancient pistol, as it removes the somewhat unreliable knockback chance that we had to deal with up until this point. That upgrade, meanwhile, can then go on our fully upgraded boomstick, just to ensure maximum critical damage output for both weapons that Dux is wielding. Since we have a few extra attachments, we can also slightly increase the critical damage output of one of our Rambinos. We want to make sure, however, to leave the Driver 100 upgrade for our crossbow, because during our mission today we will encounter a situation where it should pay off to have a guaranteed knockback, and of the 3 silent weapons that we have, the crossbow is the best choice in my opinion.
Later, stalkers.
So, let's meet our squad for today, consisting of Dux, Bormin, and no, not Pharaoh just yet, instead we're going with Magnus. For Dux, we want weapons with high critical damage, the Aristo Hat, as well as the Mothwing, Circuit Breaker and Silent Assassin mutations. Bormin, meanwhile, gets the second boomstick off of Pharaoh. It is, after all, the second most powerful weapon we currently have, so it makes sense to bring it along. And mutation-wise here, the important ones are Hog Rush and Twitch Shot. Finally then we have Magnus with the knockback crossbow and the slightly improved Rambino, and very importantly also with Puppeteer equipped, which is why he is joining us today in the first place, but don't worry, he won't stick around forever and we will see Pharaoh in action very soon. And with that squad, we can now continue our journey into the zone. Today our destination are the Cult Lands, a farming area further south that will get us one step closer to finding Hammond.
You wanted me to go north, so I went north. I didn't complain one bit, but now we're going south. More south than anybody's been before, and I don't like it. There's like nightmare flowers and zone smog out here. I know the legends. Yikes. This is like a war machine, yeah? Thick armor and big teeth. Some ghouls up ahead, guarding the entrance to the farm. Time for hunter mode.
I want to party, man! I don't want to work for the Noah sect! Why are we doing this?
Watch what you say! The agents are watching us, you plank! So shut up and get back to work!
Alright, here we are with our first fight of the episode. Our target for now is the Sect Pyro, who should hopefully allow us to grab another achievement, so we want to wait until the Butcher moves away a bit and then launch our ambush, which begins by moving Dux up the ladder and simply taking a shot.
That had to hurt.
Now, the critical hit here is actually a little inconvenient, because now the damage numbers of our silent weapons do no longer add up for what I had intended, which was using Magnus's knockback crossbow to shoot the Pyro down. Instead, we now have to go with the Rambino, which does make some noise and alerts the Butcher, but thankfully nobody else.
Stay away from me!
With 6 hit points left, we can now use Bormin's Hog Rush to knock the Pyro down. Hog Rush deals 2 points of damage, the fall takes care of the remaining 4, and that unlocks the Bormin Smash achievement, as well as the And Stay Down achievement, as this was Hog Rush number 10 of the playthrough.
We've lost one! We'll kill you real good.
The Butcher meanwhile dashes right through the fire to get up to us and earns himself a shot to the face for his efforts. But instead of going for the easy kill now, we have to use Puppeteer for the mind control. As you know, we will unlock another achievement for doing this 10 times. This right here is number 3, by the way. And as far as I know, butchers are also the only enemies where this is guaranteed to work. And of course, there is a limited number of them in this game. So from this point onwards, we will actually want to try to mind control every single one we encounter. After a bit of back and forth, the mind control then wears off and we can go for the kill, and that completes our first fight.
Not so tough now, huh? Come on.
After collecting some scrap and a Molotov, we can now use the level up to unlock the Eagle Eye mutation for Dux, which gives him a 25% bonus to weapon range. To actually use it, we would have to replace either Silent Assassin or Alpinist, which are in my opinion much more powerful, so it won't be utilized that often, but eventually it might come in handy. While we're here, let's also quickly change Dux to the Fertility Crown, which we could have done at the beginning of the episode, now that I think about it, and let's switch Magnus from Puppeteer to Chain Lightning. With that loadout, we can then head into a southeastern direction until we see a small abandoned shack in the distance. Inside here, we can obtain some scrap, a medkit and some weapon parts, so it's definitely worth checking out, even though it's a bit out of the way.
Blessed be the ancients. Use my body as your vehicle for vengeance. Find the thief among us. Strike him down.
Continuing westwards, we are now collecting some valuables around another farm building, and we can hear that we are definitely not alone.
Whoever here steals mushrooms will be punished severely.
It seems like our enemies have a bit of a theft problem, and we will find out more about those mushrooms in just a moment. For the time being, however, we can read through and actually listen to the second journal entry of Dr. Ingmar Addison.
It frustrates me that the once compliant subjects have now become very intemperate and aggressive. Within the group, a sub-faction has developed, with Plutonia as the leader. Our hardships in the zone have convinced Plutonia that the world needs to be reset. These radical notions worry me. We are very close to the facility. Once we are safe, I'm confident that Plutonia and the others will become more manageable.
Okay, so the name Plutonia is one that we might want to keep in mind, although right here and now we have a more pressing concern, and that is the Medbots slowly advancing to our position. With Dux hiding behind the fallen tree, we can put Bormin and Magnus next to the one that's still standing, and then launch the ambush. The important part here is really only that Dux is hidden, because that allows him to land a guaranteed critical hit. Following things up with Bormin, we can land another shot. The critical here is nice, but not really necessary. Either way, the kill would be guaranteed with Magnus's Chain Lightning.
This way.
With the robot's loot in our possession, we have now actually reached the exit to the Spear of Heaven, the area where we assume the Nova Sect is keeping Hammond, and while we are here, we might as well unlock that area for fast traveling, even though we are of course not done with the Cult Lands just yet. So as soon as we arrive, we can then return the way we came and continue our adventure. I think it makes the game flow a little easier though, if we don't have to backtrack through already cleared areas that often.
You have one job. Watch the robot. Where's the robot?
I told you! I turned around and...
Where's the robot? You want to get me into trouble, do you? Find the robot!
Looks like the ghouls have lost their Medbots, and after this conversation, a shaman will separate from the group to look for it.
Anybody notice these mushrooms are growing out of dead bodies? What kind of sicko farm is this?
That is a great question indeed, one that we cannot answer just yet, however, as we have barely enough time to collect all the goodies inside of the mushroom farm here before the shaman enters. That shaman is now also our next target, and we have a convenient opportunity to get onto the high ground here that we do not want to let go to waste. There is also some scrap up here, so one more reason to climb up, and then we can put everyone into cover, although once again only Dux really needs to be hidden once we attack. The shaman will now slowly come closer, but we want to wait until they come back out on our side and basically stand directly below our squad until we launch the ambush. The fight itself is then really easy. Being hidden, Dux has no trouble landing a critical.
Yeah.
Bormin can then follow things up with his Twitch Shot mutation. And finally, Magnus can land the killing blow.
Got that one. Nice. With me.
Completing the fight also grants us another level up, and we now have enough points to unlock Silent Assassin for Magnus, an ability that we definitely want to grab, as it is in my opinion much more useful than his telekinesis. For that reason, let us also equip it right away, and let's also switch back from Chain Lightning to Puppeteer. You'll see why in just a second.
How many times have I told you that the mushrooms are sacred tools for my mind, not yours?
My mind is good mind. Thick mind.
Your mind is nothing. We need to get as much food as possible into the sanctum before the cleansing of the Ark. Now get to work.
My mind. Nothing. Yes. Nothing my mind is. Nothing my mind is.
You brain-dead simpleton! Just leave. Go on patrol.
And that is our cue to move away now, as the Butcher will now start patrolling. I think you can already imagine what's going to happen next, so let's sit near the entrance here and wait until our victim is far enough away from the rest of the group. To start off the fight, we are getting ourselves a mind control number 4 of the playthrough, and then we can play around with the Butcher for 2 turns until the ability finally wears off. This is, by the way, also the last fight that we need Magnus for, so in just a few moments we will finally see Pharaoh in action, and then we can take care of the slightly more beefy enemies on this map. The Butcher, meanwhile, is easily defeated with 2 silent shots, so that is one less enemy to worry about.
Bye-bye.
You're earning your scrap, kid.
Right, now as advertised, we are making some changes to the squad at this point, and we will actually get rid of both Magnus and Dux now. After taking their weapons, we can sub in Selma and Pharaoh. Both of them will be needed for the upcoming fights. Pharaoh will more or less receive the same loadout that Dux had previously, including the Aristo hat and a chem flare that I put on her in between episodes. And in terms of mutations, she will be using Mothwings, Gunslinger and Silent Assassin. Now, Bormin remains with us throughout the entire mission, but he will now switch over to the crossbow, as the needle pistol needs to go on Selma for the purposes of Twitch Shot. We can complete her loadout with the Rambino and with the Helm of Wisdom, not that we really need it, but I think it looks funny.
Blimey! Did you see all this food? Who knew ghouls could be farmers?
And yes, the ghouls' acquisition of vast amounts of food seemed to be a curious theme for today's mission, one that should not stop us, however, from engaging our next group of enemies. For now, we only need to launch that chem flare with Pharaoh, but the real fight is of course going to begin shortly, as soon as we have everyone in position.
Watch my back.
And by everyone, I really only mean Pharaoh herself, who we want to hide behind the pallets over here. With Bormin and Selma, meanwhile, we really only need to make sure that they are close enough. Now, to start off the fight, we are going to use Pharaoh's Mothwings to get her airborne, and in the perfect position to use Gunslinger. Gunslinger will fire as many shots as there are enemies in the area, provided we have enough ammunition, but it comes with a hit chance penalty for each additional target. Chem Flare and Height Advantage neutralize that penalty, and Pharaoh also still counts as hidden, so she can now land 2 absolutely massive critical hits.
Give up now. I'm the hero. You're the zero. What do you think about that?
Following that, we can now use Selma and the Rambino to take out the Hunter. And that was the one kill that we still needed to reactivate Bormin's Twitch Shot, which he can now use to take out the tank. Again, the Chem Flare guarantees the hit.
Enough!
Sweet!
And there we are, we have made it to level 40. Not only does Iridia now carry a few additional items, but we can also find what is without a doubt the best scope so far, combining increased crit chance with a bonus to weapon range, two things that up until now we always had to weigh up against each other. The rest of the enemy campsite holds a few more items of interest, including another medkit, and after collecting everything we want to proceed into a northwestern direction. Behind, or rather halfway inside of a tree, we can collect some robot scrap. There are also more weapon parts in the back of the pickup truck here. And finally we can find a broken gun in the northern corner of the map. Now, our next group of enemies are the 2 remaining ghouls inside of the farm, the 2 that we heard earlier talking about the mushrooms, and with the butcher already taken out, we should have no issue eliminating the other 2 as well now. The map also once again presents us with convenient access to some high ground, which we will of course gladly use. As you can see, one of the 2 enemies is named Brother Lundgren, who could perhaps be the Novasect leader in this area, and with 30 hit points and 2 points of armor, he is a bit of a challenge. Still, with careful planning, including putting Pharaoh and Selma into cover up here, we should be able to win this fight without too much trouble, as Bormin drops back down onto the ground, takes possession of a Molotov, and then position right in front of the enemies. Starting us off, however, is Pharaoh with yet another guaranteed critical hit on the Hunter.
I am the beautiful weapon. Tableau!
With 14 hit points left, a Twitch Shot from Selma will now already eliminate the Hunter. All we need to do is to get her into the right spot.
Bang!
Now that was a good kill.
Lundgren, meanwhile, may be a named enemy but is not immune to Hog Rush, which makes the rest of the fight rather trivial in my opinion.
Hurt, don't it?
Once knocked down, we now have 2 full turns to blast away at our enemy,
From me!
and even 2 points of armor are not going to stand in our way. At this point in the game, our damage output is just too high.
You got? Say my name, Jizwipe. It's Pharaoh.
To reward us for our efforts, we gain another level and some weapon parts, and can now also open another mystery chest over here.
Come on. Let me see what's inside.
And inside we find what has arguably just become the most powerful armor in our arsenal. With 3 points of armor, 6 additional hit points and immunity to charge attacks, this one is a straight improvement over the already pretty good X-Warrior armor that Bormin has equipped. For that reason, Bormin will now also get the new one. The old model can go on Selma, to make her look even more ridiculous, I guess.
So I ate a mushroom. So what? Brain Boy's not gonna find me. My skull's too thick.
I told you to split it with me. Tell me what happened. Did you see the Ancients?
Hell no. I saw some purple, and the purple laughed at me. So I started laughing. Then I took a piss. That felt real good.
So what's the big deal? Sacred mushrooms. Psh, stupid Novasect. Phonies!
And here we are now with our final group of enemies on the map, and once again they are making it a little easier for us, as the Pyro splits off from the group after the conversation comes to an end. Once the Pyro is standing still, we can launch yet another ambush from above, and you know the drill by now.
You don't know who you're messing with. Too easy.
A critical hit from Pharaoh starts us off,
Today, Dickwipe.
and now we only need 2 more regular hits to finish the job.
Gotcha.
We are the greatest! Follow me.
Despite the Pyro's Molotov going up in flames, Tank and Hunter are none the wiser, and we can now sneak up on them to finally clear another area of hostiles. As you can already see, some high ground is readily available right next to our foes, so all we have to do now is to get sufficiently close. Since we are dealing with a tank and a hunter, we can pretty much repeat what we used against the other tank-hunter combo earlier, only this time we do not need the chem flare, as getting up onto the truck here gives us all the aim bonus that we need to blast a boomstick twitch shot right into the tank's face. For our next move, we can now go upstairs with Pharaoh, who actually remains hidden throughout the entire process, and so her gunslinger mutation once again gives us 2 guaranteed criticals.
Say my name, Shizwipe.
Figured out how to use that thing?
And that leaves only the Hunter with 8 hit points, which should be no trouble for Selma and the Rambino.
Serves you right!
You finally figured out how to use that thing?
Follow me.
So here we are. As we advance to level 42, the cult lands have now been cleared. We will now spend a few more moments collecting the remaining loot in the area, but for the most part we have collected all the really good stuff already. There is only one more unique item to be found here that we definitely do not want to miss.
Ghouls don't usually save food. What are they planning for?
Let them fill up their bellies. They get fat, they get slow. When ghouls are hungry, that's when they're dangerous.
This is more food than any ghoul pack could eat. Maybe they're preparing for something. An upcoming disaster.
And over here in the corner we can now grab the second to last hidden magazine. Only one more is needed to complete the collection, but it will take a while longer until we get that. In the meantime, let's travel to our next destination, which is actually not the Spear of Heaven just yet. Instead, we are heading south into a slightly different direction and pay a visit to the Grog Den.
Am I going completely mental? Or is that the smell of grog? Sweet, delicious grog. Out here. May I introduce you to the Grog Den? They told stories about this place in my settlement. It was a big hall where the ancients drank their magic grog and sang songs about the sun. I can use some magic grog, you know what I mean?
Give me more of that grog. I want to party till my head goes boom. Enough of that grog. We need to baptize the zone with old man fire. We need to make more firebombs now. We've got a mountain of firebombs over there. You want to make more? I want to burn it all. Not some. All. Burn it all.
And of course, the ghouls are once again also already here. However, this time there are luckily not that many of them, and they are somewhat on the easier side.
This stuff on the floor is paper, right? They made hats out of paper. What is it doing on the floor? Is it growing?
Well, it is doing one thing for certain, and that is plastering the pathway for our first enemy, a single patrolling hunter with 24 hit points.
Sure hurts.
However, that number is brought down to 10 after a sneak attack from Pharaoh,
Serves you right!
and then quickly down to 0.
Yeah! Over here.
In terms of loot, by the way, this map has a few very interesting pieces, so it should definitely not be skipped. As a matter of fact, it makes a lot of sense to come here before continuing towards the Spear of Heaven.
Let's see if we got something useful.
Case in point, this lovely piece inside of the chest here, a rifle that doesn't only look advanced, but its stats are also of the highest tier. In all aspects, this weapon is strictly superior to the Rambino. That is also why we are now equipping Selma with it. Even though it doesn't have any upgrades yet, the raw damage output is already noticeably higher than that of the Rambino. Moving on, we can then find another note. This one looks to be an invoice of some kind, perhaps from a time where actual grog was being served here, although back then it was probably simply called beer.
You fire-loving pyros, listen to me! Don't light those Molotovs near the grog! We'll all go kaboom!
Yeah, Ghoul. Taste the fumes, Ghoul. Gonna light the flame to make the Phoenix burn. Yeah!
I'm telling you, keep the fires in your pants or I'll smash your brains in! I tell them I don't work with pyro ghouls, and they give me pyro ghouls! Jacked up hotheads!
Okay, after this short rant from the somewhat ironically named Chief Pyra, we now have to play the waiting game. Triggering her short outburst is crucial for our plan, because she needs to finish talking before she gets moving. Her patrol route will eventually bring her to what remains of the entrance of this building, very close to the hunter who's stationed here, and that is when we strike. Our first move is once again the Mothwings Gunslinger combo with Pharaoh for 2 guaranteed criticals, only this time we are going silent with the pistol. Following that, we can use Selma's super tendons to simply jump up onto the otherwise unreachable roof here, from where she can take out the hunter with her twitch shot mutation.
They took one of ours out!
Anyone?
Chief Pyra is then a case for Hog Rush, and she is actually close enough so that Bormin can fire on this turn as well. Our next shot then comes from Selma again, and it sets the Chief on fire, so we can simply skip the rest of our turns and let the flames do the rest.
Hey, follow me.
The hunter at the entrance dropped a Molotov. Pyra, meanwhile, leaves us with a red eye scope for a 15% crit chance increase, one of the better scopes in the game, and one that we will probably put to good use very soon. Now up next, we once again have to wait for a moment, because you can currently see all 3 remaining enemies on the map, 2 pyros and a medbot. However, all except for the pyro closest to us are moving around the area, so with a bit of patience we can eventually pick that pyro off while they're all alone. And with 24 hit points and the high ground, this should not take too long.
From me!
A critical from Pharaoh begins the fight, and 2 more hits from Bormin and Selma put an end to it.
Enough!
The enemy camp then holds a few goodies for us in store, including some well-hidden weapon parts near the grog barrels over here, as well as a few items of the explosive kind.
It's a stockpile of Molotov cocktails. Could cause a bit of mischief, these.
Just in case you're wondering, by the way, no, it is sadly not possible to set all of these barrels on fire with a Molotov of our own, even though the game heavily hints at that, and even if it was, the pyros are immune to fire damage anyway. Speaking of which, the last pyro is now approaching, and we have timed this correctly, so the medbot also appears behind it, and we can attack once more. Now the pyro's fate is quickly sealed.
You don't know who you're messing with. Too easy.
As long as we get a sneak attack with Pharaoh, the critical is guaranteed.
Today, dickwad.
And getting sneak attacks is really not that hard in this game.
Personal injury detected. Care provider on approach vendor.
This time, however, the medbot is close enough to witness the pyro's demise,
Circuits are free.
giving us a great opportunity to take it out.
Give up now and I'll go easy on ya. What do you think about that?
We can actually also test out Selma's new weapon now, which is almost enough for the kill, but not quite. So Bormin can calmly reload and then finish the job.
Get your asses over here.
And there we go, the Grog Den has been cleared already. Definitely one of the quicker maps to complete, but I think the game needs to have those as well. Now, one area that we have not yet checked out is the big barn right next to us here, but we absolutely want to do that before we leave.
Prip would be jealous of this operation. We're low on supplies. Let's get some more.
Plenty of treasure out in the zone. You just have to know where to look.
And we only have to look right where we are standing to find our next artifact, the Grog Milker. It has been a while since we found the last one, so Prip should be happy to have us bring him another one back.
What is this? It smells like old grog. Is it for making grog?
And with Bormin still wondering what we have just picked up, we have now stripped the map clean, both of enemies and of loot, and that means we can finally return to the Ark.
You're getting closer to Hammond. Good. Seeing more ghouls too? Not so good. Where do ghouls come from? I'll tell you. As the Red Plague burned through the human race, civilization fell apart. Between two tribes of ancients, a war started. That war grew into a world war. All the weapons they swore they'd never use, they used with wild abandon. When the war was over, the world lay poisoned. Soldiers who had nothing left wandered the zone to live in the irradiated wastelands. Those soldiers beget little soldiers, who grew up and beget other little soldiers, who after a few centuries became the ghouls you see today. You want me to call the ghouls humans? I refuse. Ghouls are not humans. The rot has stripped the souls from their bodies, leaving only rage. Rage that jumps from one generation to the next, getting stronger and stronger. The ghoul appetite for Ark blood will never be sated. Remember that the next time you face them. Farewell. Remember your elder's guidance.
And what would a good episode of Mutant Year Zero be without a slightly worrying tale from the Elder? So now that we have witnessed that as well, I think we have reached a good point to make the cut. Next time we will then head over to the Spear of Heaven and hopefully rescue Hammond from the Nova Sect, that is, if he is still there. Until then, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, then I would of course be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.